Thank you very much for those kind words. I didn't quite recognize who you were talking about. Very humbling and I don't want to say not true, but not really true. But Senator Cardin, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, Shalom. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here today about Nauru's special relationship with Israel, the Jewish state. It is truly a pleasure and an honor for me to accept this award from my friends of the American Jewish International Relations Committee, AJIRI. I accept this on behalf of my country and the people of Nauru. All those nice words were said is because this is my country's position. It's not my personal position, but I'm happy with my country's position. I'm also honored by the presence of Senator Cardin, who has been an outspoken defender of Israel's right to exist. Mr. Senator, please accept my best wishes for a very successful re-election campaign in November. Nauru is a close ally of Israel at the United Nations. We are on the short list of 5 countries that reliably side with Israel when she's attacked in the score of General Assembly resolutions that come up for vote each and every year. Nauru and Israel share a set of unshakable values that unites us. We both have a strong and abiding commitment for democracy, the rule of law, and the protection of fundamental human rights. Our countries also share deep spiritual roots, and we teach our children many of the same stories. Most importantly, Nauru and Israel both vigorously and unambiguously defend every nation's right to exist. I have visited Israel several times, including a trip with my president, and all I have seen has reaffirmed our commitment. Our delegation visited Sderot and felt the trepidation of knowing that rockets could rain down on the city at any moment. The knowledge that the people of Sderot endure such insecurity for their entire lives touched us deeply. Somehow, they find the courage to continue about their daily lives and refuse to be terrorized. I think this speaks to the uncommon character of the Israeli people. We also saw the resilience and ingenuity of the Israeli people. Evidence of Israel's leadership in the fields of renewable energy, agriculture, and medicine was all around. I cannot claim to fully appreciate the complexity and historical context of the Middle East situation, but I have begun to understand the tremendous challenge of preserving a vibrant democratic society while living continually under siege. Ladies and gentlemen, why must Israel defend herself from political attacks at the United Nations every time she defends herself from violent attacks at home? I'm often stunned by just how one-sided the debate at the UN has become. A close colleague of mine at the UN once quipped, "Israel should stop using the Bible as a real estate map." I think the statement is very revealing. Yes, land is a major component in the ongoing dispute between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but his statement, in my view, betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of the situation. In Nauru, in my country, we know that land is not just a commodity to be bought and sold. For us, land is everything. We follow a matrilineal tradition, so land is passed down from mother to daughter. Our land provides security, stability, and connection to our ancestors. It is inextricably linked to our identity. Land in my country cannot be sold and cannot be owned by the government or by foreigners. The map of family land is one of a Nauruan's most valuable possessions. My distinguished colleague probably does not come from a country with similar tradition, or else he would have recognized that for Israel, the Bible is their family land, passed down since time immemorial. The land is part of their history and their culture. It is their inheritance. These are the things on which you cannot easily put a price. How would you expect a people to react when their very identity is taken from them? Perhaps this is another reason why we Nauruans feel a special kinship with Israel. My island nation is only 21 square kilometers, or as Wikipedia tells me, 1/8 of the size of Washington, D.C., or 4 times the size of Capitol Hill, or twice the size of Rock Creek Park, making our land all the more precious. And now climate change conspires to take much of this land away from us. Rising sea levels erode our coastlines and jeopardize vital infrastructure. We know what it's like to see our land threatened. In describing the situation this way, I do not intend to diminish the views of the Palestinians. They too have a deep historical and cultural connection to many of these same places. I believe this is one of the reasons that a resolution to this conflict is so elusive. Ladies and gentlemen, in the sometimes cynical world of international diplomacy, people sometimes assume that there must be some payoff for Nauru, that our vote is somehow contingent on our relationship with the United States. In 2004, the US State Department started publishing a special report that records the votes cast by member states of the UN on the resolutions directed against Israel. These reports show that since 2004, Nauru has joined the United States 96 times in voting against anti-Israel resolutions. I look at Nauru's voting record vis-à-vis Israel and cannot help but feel a strong sense of pride for my country. On the other hand, I am deeply dismayed because in addition to being the permanent representative to the United Nations and ambassador to Israel, I am also Nauru's ambassador to the United States, and I will be judged on how I have managed that bilateral relationship. Despite our long record of support for the United States, we have seen very little reciprocation. I have been less than successful in my efforts to engage the US as a close bilateral partner, despite our many common positions across the policy spectrum. Please excuse me for speaking bluntly, but I understand that I'm in the presence of Jews and you know the Jewish people, and I need to be blunt, so I'm told. So please excuse me for being just a little bit blunt, but I think this is important to raise because this imbalance, this unequal treatment undermines our professed goals and is really not only a disservice to the people of Nauru, but also to Israel and the United States itself. Israel needs strong allies and strong advocates at the United Nations. Some of the most intense lobbying in the world takes place at the UN. Rich countries dangle carrots, while the powerful nations place conditions on development support. Sometimes countries do not have the luxury of standing on principle when they face urgent problems at home, like poverty, food and water insecurity, and climate change. And it's those countries who demonstrate an understanding of the internal challenges of those they purport to help that are usually the most successful. Diplomacy is based on reciprocity and on mutual respect. Those are the rules. And supporting Israel does not come without its costs. The pressure to vote against Israel is great, and we do not have the luxury of hiding behind a secret ballot. There is no way to hide when our vote is prominently displayed on the public tally, one of a few countries in the no column. I'm sure there are many countries that weigh the costs and benefits and come out on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, these excessive attacks on Israel at the United Nations are disgraceful. Countless hours are dedicated to debating the same resolutions condemning Israel year after year after year. Meanwhile, progress on climate change, poverty eradication, public health, sustainable development, and many other important issues lag. Israel is also used as a divisive wedge that prevents cooperation in many of these same areas. And in a time of great economic uncertainty and facing crisis in the areas of climate, energy, and food, it is irresponsible for some countries to hold the UN hostage to a single issue. Unfortunately, this is the state of affairs, and we must deal with it. Israel is under siege, and it is incumbent upon us to ensure that her allies are strong, independent, and have the freedom to stand on principle. Ladies and gentlemen, every nation, every people has the inviolable right to exist. This is a principle that Nauru will defend, whether it pertains to a persecuted people who have fashioned a thriving society out of the desert, or an island nation that could one day be swept away by the rising sea. Thank you so much for your attention, and Toda Rabba.